In this video, I wanted to show you some of my trees that are starting to go dormant. And I also wanted to show you some that are still setting fruit. It's mid-November and the weather is starting to cool down. Several of my fruit trees are starting to lose their leaves and are getting ready to go dormant. But a few of the other trees still have fruit on them. Before I get to those, I wanted to show you my watermelon plants. They were planted late in the season, and I wasn't sure I was going to get any watermelons, but I wound up getting a few. There are two plants growing in this area. Some of the vines are already starting to die out. With the cold weather that's coming on, I don't think they'll be surviving too much longer. These vines produced a total of 5 watermelons. I know it's not much, but again, they were planted late in the season, sometime towards the end of June. Next season I'll be planting them in spring, so hopefully I'll get a bigger harvest. I read that they're ready for harvest when the tendrils closest to the watermelon has dried. I harvested one in mid-October that had 2 tendrils on it, but only one of the tendrils was dry. The other one was still green, but I went ahead and harvested it anyway. And when I cut it open, it was not ripe at all. This one here has 2 tendrils on it. So I waited until both dried, as you can see here. And the bottom is supposed to have a yellowish color to it before you pick them. And I checked this one earlier and it did have a slightly yellowish color. I'll go ahead and pause the camera and cut this one off the vine and then cut it open so you can see what it looks like inside. Here it is off the vine. As you can see, in comparison to the scissors next to it, it's a pretty good size. And here's what it looked like on the bottom with the yellowish color I was talking about. And here's what it looked like inside. Had a nice red color and was very juicy, and the flavor was excellent. The other watermelons that are left on the vine still aren't ready for picking. The tendrils are still a little green. It's a bit hard to pick up here on the video, but it's a little bit green towards the end. And this other smaller one here also needs more time. It too, the tendrils aren't quite completely dried out yet, so it'll need a little bit more time before it's ready for picking. And the one you see up there in between the two Jujube Trees, that one I checked it earlier and it's also not ready for picking yet. It's going to need more time. I also have a couple of butternut squash vines. I didn't think I would be growing these again because they are really high maintenance. These plants are highly susceptible to this white powdery mildew you see here on the leaves, and it spreads really fast from leaf to leaf. I've been spraying them with a mixture of milk and water that seems to help, but it doesn't last too long, and then that white powdery mildew is back. It's a lot of work trying to stay on top of that, so I didn't think I would be going through that next season. That isn't until I tried one of these butternut squash for the first time. They are really good tasting and They have a really long shelf life. Once picked, you can store them for quite a while. And there's quite a bit of different recipes out there for these, so I'll definitely be growing them again next season. Okay, now on to the trees. Here are my fig trees. I've already harvested a few off the Peter's honey here in the front. And looks like this one here might be ready for picking. These others still need a little more time on the tree. They're not quite ready. They're pretty good size, but they still need a little bit more time. It's got quite a few on the tree still. And the other one over here, I also harvested one off of this one already. This is the blackjack fig. These are a little further away from ripening, but it's also got a fairly good crop. This last one here is the Excel fig. This one's running behind all the others. I haven't picked any off of this one yet, and these here on the tree still, as you can see, they're still pretty small. They won't be ready for a while. Next is my strawberry tree. I've been picking fruit off this one since mid-October, or mid-August. This tree has been a heavy producer, and it's finally approaching the end of the fruit production cycle. It still has a few left to pick. These should be ready in a few days or so, but it's not pushing out that many flowers anymore, or any flower buds. So it's approaching the end of its fruit production for this season. These next trees are my Jujube trees. That's a Lee on the right and a long variety on the left. The long has lost just about all its leaves. They're both getting ready to go dormant though. These trees flowered earlier this season, but I didn't get any fruit set off of either one of them. This is their first year, so hopefully next season I'll be able to get them to produce some fruit. Next, I wanted to give you an update on my mango. This mango, along with two others, were planted a few months ago in February. This Kerry mango is the only one that produced any fruit. Originally there were 3 that had developed, but a squirrel got to them, and this is the only one that remained. It started to develop back in late May. I read that mangoes can take anywhere from 3 to 5 months to develop. This one is at about 5 months now, so I'll hopefully be harvesting this one soon. Next are my cherry trees. These trees didn't produce much of a crop. They were put in the ground in late January. They're also starting to lose their leaves and will be going dormant soon. Hopefully I'll get a good crop off of these next season. This next one is also one of my trees that set a really good crop this season. This is its second fruit set. The first was earlier this season, back in May, and I harvested them. I began harvesting from around May to June, and it produced a pretty good crop back then. This second crop here, as you can see, is much smaller. I recently started picking a few off of it, and there are still a few more left to pick, but these need a little bit more time on the tree to ripen. I purchased this tree a little over a year ago. It was already growing in this 15-gallon container that it's in now, and it's done well. These trees make for good container-grown trees. Eventually, I'll be planting mine in the ground, but it has done well growing in this container. So you don't have the space to plant in the ground, or you live outside of the planting growing zones, which per nursery is zones 9 through 11. You can keep them in a container and move them to a protected area during the winter months. And next I wanted to show you my Mexicola avocado. I just got through posting a video that included this one. Shortly after posting that video, I noticed that it's pushing out some new growth. As you can see here, there appears to be new growth that I believe are going to be flower buds. Still a bit too early to tell, but I believe these are the early stages of flower buds starting to form. This tree bloomed a few months ago in August, and this is the only fruit that it wound up setting. This is the first fruit that this tree has ever set. It's doing well, putting on good size. It won't be ready for harvest until sometime next year though. Hopefully, if these are flower buds that are forming, I'll get a second shot at getting it to set a little bit more fruit. We'll see. And this is my Meyer Limon tree. It's been growing in this container for a little over 3.5 years, and it's been a steady producer. It also has these big fruit here that's forming. I'm not sure what's really going on with these. It's pushed out a few of these that are really large in size and way bigger than the normal ones that I usually get off of this tree. It's got a few of them on there. There's another one there on the bottom. Hopefully the taste on the larger lemons will be similar to the ones that I usually get off this tree. I'll let you know as soon as I harvest them. Next up is my Rio Red Grapefruit tree. This tree's been growing in this container for about a little over 3 years now. It's never really put on a heavy crop, but it has consistently put out at least some every season. And as you can see here, these are getting, well, this one here is no good. But these here on the bottom here look like they're getting ready, or at least close to being ready for harvest. There's another one here that's not gonna be a good one, so just take it out. But the tree has done well growing in this container. At some point I'll probably transplant it to a bigger pot, but for now I'll leave it as is. And lastly, these are my pink Barbie Guavas. There's 2 trees planted here in this area. They were planted back in mid-January, so they haven't been in the ground that long. But they've put on a pretty good crop, and some of these are really good size, like this one here. there's quite a few, and it's still putting out flowers, and there's some flower buds yet to open, but it's put on a really good sized crop. As you can see, there's quite a few. These here are still green, not quite ready for picking, but there's several others scattered throughout the tree that are ripe and ready to be picked. This tree has done, both these trees have done extremely well growing here. Well, that will be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel, and don't forget to give this video a like. As always, stay safe, grow your own, and thank you for watching.